Hi, I'm Freddie Woodward, and welcome to Dive Beyond Sport.
And I'm Yona Wisdom. In each episode, we speak to athletes to discover their identity, value, and excellence. DIVE, dive. This isn't about the medals, results, or records. It's about the people behind the performance. Now, today's guest just said he never normally does podcasts, so this is special for us. But he's actually broken a lot of records. He's made a lot of history and is known for pushing the limits in his short cliff diving career so far. That's right. He enjoys throwing himself off 27-meter platforms for fun. Could never be me. Aidan Heslop, welcome.
Yeah, guys, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous about the whole thing. I'm not a podcast guy, but I'm excited to get into it. You guys know what you're doing, so I'm just following the lead here.
Let's go.
Well, listen, just to kick things off, Aidan, just for for maybe people who haven't followed your story so far, how would you just sum up quickly your journey up until this point?
Damn, in a quick way. I mean, I started diving when I was 7. I figured out what high diving was when I was 12. Did my first Red Bull cliff diving at 16, which at the time was the youngest ever. Got my first podium the next year and won my first World Cup when I was 19, and just since then it's just skyrocketed. I've left diving behind a little bit, and now fully focused on the cliff diving. A little bit injured at the minute, but next year I'm coming back strong.
Nice. We'll definitely go into those stories and everything, but I mean, focused on the cliff diving first of all, the idea of cliff diving is absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane. And you got into it so young. What was the attraction for you? Like, what was it about you that wanted to get involved in cliff diving?
Like, I was always a bit of a adrenaline junkie. Like, I was the kid that was like jumping across the sofas. If you're at a hotel, I'm like messing about on the bed and everything. I rode BMXs and stuff. Like, I actually got shown a video of Gary Hunt, who's OG cliff diver, the GOAT. Owen showed it to me. Owen Weymouth showed me a video of it, and I thought it was fake. It was him doing his triple quad, his new big dive in like 2014 or whatever it was. And I thought it was fake. I thought it was CGI. I was like, I'm not having it. But I went home, did some more research, and figured out that this was an actual sport. And then like from there, I was hooked. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. Me and Owen started trying it a little bit at the pool. Not everyone was super supportive of us to start with, but my coach was Sally, and his coach Vito at the time were very supportive. So that's kind of all we needed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned Vito there. Obviously, he comes from a bit of a cliff diving background himself, right? So I suppose that maybe helped things. But he was a traditional diving coach.
Honestly, like, it's exactly what we needed. He was the coach that probably pushed me to do stuff that I potentially shouldn't have been doing at the time. Like, over my career of diving, I had 2 main coaches, which was Vito, that made me do all the big dives, and then Sally, who cleaned me up and made me look a bit prettier. And I think without Vito, without both of them, I wouldn't be where I was today. But Vito helped in the high diving side. He just like added to that crazy energy that we both needed at the time when we're like 12 to 14 years old, like just telling us to do stupid stuff off 10 meter. It's just like exactly what we wanted.
That must have been quite funny, because for Vito, looking from his perspective, that must have just been really fun for him, because like to have divers who are actually willing to just try all these different skills and just throw themselves off and see whatever. Like, as a coach, that must have been so fun. But that obviously, I assume, couldn't work with everyone. Like, do you think that anyone could be a cliff diver if they're kind of taught in the right way, or do you have to be a certain type of person already?
I wouldn't say that like everyone can be a cliff diver, because there's certain things in cliff diving that you just need to have like a little bit of a different brain to kind of accept things. so not everyone, but like I think a lot of people can if they put the time, the resources into like actually building up to that level, because a lot of people just think it's diving with another 17 meters added on, which essentially it is, but there is like a lot of separate training that go into it. And if people are willing to put that in, I think a lot of people can be. I mean, from what you said about Fito probably enjoying that, I know that he did. He loves it. He like talks to me and Owen all the time about how he misses like having kids. I mean, he's got some kids now which do the same. And I mean, I coach a little bit of high diving here in Canada as well. And some of the kids that you coach, it's fun to watch them just try stuff. They're made of rubber, these kids. So like, you can get them to do whatever, really.
Was that like your attitude to yourself when you were learning? That's what it feels like. Because when was your first 27 meter dive?
I did my first 27 meter when I was 14.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was at this festival in Czech Republic. It's called High Jump. There's like 5 massive music stages, and it's all surrounded by this flooded quarry where they do high diving. And it's up to like 16, I think it was that year. But they bring a massive crane to the edge of the water, and just go like that. And we went up. They said it was 27. It was probably more like 25. But like I claim it. You know, when I was 14, I'm gonna claim it. But yeah, I don't think I really had that kind of mentality of like I'm rubber because I'm a kid. You don't really think about it. But I think like my parents played a big part in it, and they knew that I was not indestructible, but like I was like, you twist an ankle as a kid and like a lot of people will just limp it off, you know, like as you do. I was that kind of kid. If I get injured or not, I'm just gonna push through it. Can't say that I was thinking about that for myself, but my parents knew that I was pretty tough as a kid.
Yeah, I mean that's huge for your parents. You know, I'm here in Jamaica. I'm doing this diving camp, and you know, trying to teach people the basics. And some people have already come in saying that they're scared of heights and worried about jumping on 10 meter. And parents are already worried to see their kids going any higher than the 3 meter and the 5 meter. They're like, "Oh, are you going to be doing the 10 meter by the end of this camp?" I'm like, not necessarily. Might be an option. Just depends on how the kid progresses. But it sounds like your parents kind of actually encouraged you to push yourself and challenge yourself because they knew you were tough, which, you know, is a completely different approach than what I've heard from many other parents.
Yeah, they were really supportive, but they did like have their limitations, but also they were kind of guidelines in a way. My first event that I went to when I was 12, it was in Switzerland, in Montreal, and there was a junior event and a men's event. The men's was from the kind of 19, 20 meter cliff. And then we had a 12 and a 15, and we got there. And my mum was like, you're not doing the 15. And I was like, cool, no worries. Did a couple 12s. And then Owen was like, hey, come to the 15 with me. Just check it out. I'm like, of course. And we climb up. You have to climb up this rope. It's awful.
Oh my God.
And we get around, and I'm on the 15, and my mum's all the way down there. She can't climb up the cliff. There's no way. And she's screaming at me. And I just dive, you know, like there's not much they could do at that point.
Yeah, you're sitting there like this, like I can't hear anything.
Yeah, my mum was always she enjoyed it, like she loved traveling the world to follow me diving and cliff diving. But when it came to that, like when I first started cliff diving, she's always like covering her eyes, not watching. And my dad was super chill, and now it's completely reversed. Like nowadays, like last event that I did in Sydney when I won the whole thing. My mum was like ready to go, like super happy, and my dad was just like pacing up and down. He couldn't. It's a weird how it switched now over like 10 years.
But do you think for your dad then it was like the fear of watching you dive, or it was the fear of or the nerves of like what was at stake in that moment? Or
I think it's probably both. I mean, he knows that I'm like one of the safer divers for sure, like. But he also knows the risks, you know, and I think that weighs on him kind of heavy sometimes, knowing that like, and over the years, I think he's seen what can happen to other divers. I mean, we've seen lots of knockouts and broken ribs and lung issues and things. So I think that weighs a little bit heavier on my dad nowadays after seeing that kind of stuff over the years than it does my mum.
Sure.
My mum just wants to see me dive and do well. My dad is like, just wants me to, you know, be safe, but also like, yeah.
I mean, like speaking about the risks, I want to skip forward a little bit, and this will just add some context to you as a person at the moment, and we'll fill in the rest later. But you know, you're struggling with a pretty serious injury right now, and actually, maybe your dad's stress at that time might be because he, I presume, was aware of the injury because it was something that you've been dealing with over a long period of time, right? Can you share a little bit about the injury that's kind of ruined your season, and also, whilst going through this process, you know, you've not been able to do what you love and do what you enjoy. Have you learned anything about yourself during this time?
Yeah, so I'll start with what the injury actually is. So I had a herniated disc, or a slip disc, I think it's called in the UK, at my L5S1, so right at the bottom of my back. And then the one above it was also bulging as well. So I had a surgery about 2 and a bit months ago. Surgeon just cut it open, got under the muscle, and shaved away at some stuff, you know. I was only out for like 45 minutes. Fairly small surgery, but like it takes a long time to recover because those parts are just so intricate and small, bad blood flow. But yeah, that's the injury as a whole. And I started feeling it last year in Boston, which was the second event of the season. And it was the day after the event. We left really quickly after the event because we were watching the Formula One here in Montreal. I was just there, like walking around, like, oh, my ass hurts a bit, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I'm training all the next days, and I'm just like, it doesn't feel great. And then just over the season, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I was doing the classic like male thing of just like, I'm just gonna leave it. It's got to get better, but it's just not the case sometimes. Eventually got the MRI and all that lot and figured out what it was. Yeah, it wasn't what I wanted. I really thought it was just going to go away, but that's not quite the case, unfortunately. But yeah, so I've been out of diving since that event, which was like November. So it's been like 10 months now, and it's tough, honestly, like, because I've got nothing else to do. I'm sitting around watching everyone else dive.
Yeah.
Like this is my job, you know. I still have to go in, I still have to do my workouts, but I just sit there for 10 months watching everyone else dive, and it's pretty tough, you know. And I think the hardest bit for me was before the surgery, I had like 5 different people telling me 5 different things of what was the right thing to do, and I didn't know the right path to go down, and it just felt like a lot of the time I was smashing my head against a brick wall, you know. I just was going nowhere. It's just like, the injury was getting worse. I was in a bad place watching everyone else dive, just getting a bit depressed, to be honest. But it was, that was a tough couple months. But after the surgery, and now that I'm working alongside Red Bull and the surgeons that they're close to there in Austria and Germany, it's really put me on the right path. I've got a good mentality. I've got good motivation now again, which is nice. But those 2 months, I didn't realize how much of a struggle that was going to be, to be honest. It was a lot harder than I thought it would.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like watching other people as well is always one of the hardest things, right? And especially, I guess, when, you know, for you in like terms of Red Bull, you've got these, you know, everyone loves them, right? These crazy events in ridiculous places, and you know, and all the amazing, like the content and stuff that comes with it. So like that must be a challenge. And I mean, in terms of like, you know, identity, obviously that's something we're kind of focusing on a bit here. Like, what has that shifted the way you're like, thinking about yourself, and in this period, have things kind of evolved or shifted any way?
I think, I've seen myself for a long time as like the youngest cliff diver. Even though there are people a lot younger than me now, I still see myself as like one of the babies of cliff diving. And in that mentality, I'm like, I don't really have to stretch that much. I don't really have to do the workouts that all these old people are doing. I don't have to be in the gym as much. Old, yeah, I say old. They're like mid 30s and they're still crushing it. So, but that was kind of my mentality last year, and we didn't have a really good regime for strength and conditioning, so we were doing it all alone. And my choice was, when I'm smashing it anyway, I may as well just not do the strength and conditioning. So I didn't do it for like 6 months at all, which was probably my big issue. And that was a really bad mentality at the time. And I think this is just like a bit of a wake up call. Like I'm not 12 years old anymore. I can't just like go around doing this stuff without actually working on me and my body. So yeah, I know moving forwards, hopefully I want another 10, 15 years in this sport, and I have to do it. I have to do it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've had my own injury, and it's a very humbling experience, especially when you're out and you can't do anything. You can just watch people. Fortunately, I wasn't missing a season, so I didn't have to deal with that. But you know, it taught me a lot about myself, about, you know, who I am away from the pool. And I'd always worked away from the pool as much as possible because I needed things to do. I needed to like keep myself mentally active, and it served me very well in that period of time. Fortunately, who have you realised that you are away from the pool, away from diving during this period of time? What do you enjoy doing? What keeps you, you know, getting up every single day?
The kind of unfortunate thing is that everything that I enjoy, I can't do right now. Like, I love pickleball, I love golf, I love rock climbing. All of those things I'm just not allowed to do. So I've learned that away from cliff diving and with a back injury, I'm just a bit of a boring guy. So you know, I got a bike the other day. I've been doing bike rides and I like it, but it's boring, you know? But yeah, I like having people over a lot. Like I do a lot of like quiz nights and things like that. Just like having people over, having some drinks, you know. I just enjoy like hosting people quite a bit, but other than that, like I haven't got much going on, to be honest. I mean, cliff diving and diving is all I've known for the last like 15 years plus of my life. So it's tough when it all of a sudden just stops, you know. And I'm still busy throughout the day. But yeah, it's at one point I was like thinking about what would happen if cliff diving, if I wasn't able to get back to cliff diving. And the first thing I thought of was a videographer, to be honest, because I'm pretty much a videographer anyway for Molly. So
yeah,
and that content does pretty well. So I think that's where I'd go, to be honest. Just stay behind the camera for once.
Yeah, I suppose that would be the valuable thing about this period. And you know, it's good to find value, it's good to find something positive in experiences like this, and understanding something that you know could do if it is all taken away, like out of your own hands. You know, that's something that is really positive to come from this period of time. But let's take you back to the cliff diving, and I want you to take us to the end of the 27-meter platform. You're just getting ready to do your most difficult dive. What is it? The front quad with 3.5 twists. Is that right?
Yeah.
6.2. I was writing the dive number earlier. I was trying to figure out like what the dive number is, and people listen to this won't understand. Like 5187, right? It's just stupid.
It's a bit wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too many big numbers for me. But when you're standing on the edge of that platform, what's the most valuable thought, feeling, emotion, sense, and how does that, you know, reflect on you as a person?
Yeah. So one of the big things that like Molly and Simone and their kind of sports psych work on is grounding before they dive. And I haven't worked on it personally with him, but I understand what it is and I implement it a little bit into my kind of thing. And it's just really like blocking out all the other stuff. One of the best examples that I have was from Northern Ireland last year. I was in the lead. I think I was like very, very close with Costa going into the last dive. And it was cold. It was rainy. I just watched him do a for him, an average dive. I think it was like 6.5, 7s. But it was cold. It was windy. I think it was raining, maybe even a little bit. Like, it was a bit wavy. And sometimes you just, like, when you've got all of those problems around you, you just have to ground yourself and remember, like, this is what you do. You've done this enough times. Just kind of be present in the moment and forget about all those things. So that's one thing that's been really helpful. And then with Steph, my coach, we tend to have 3 words before the dive, because if a coach tells me too many things before I go up, and then I'm walking up the tower for 5 minutes, I'm gonna forget it. I just will. So we get 3 words, and usually it's, for that dive specifically, it's tall, legs tight. So it means to be tall on the start, so we get a nice high takeoff. Legs, because my legs tend to come apart or bend a little bit when I do the repike. And then tight is just really tight on the end. And to be honest, that's all I need. If I implement those 3 things, the dive is going to be great. So I ground myself, look at Steph, he shouts the 3 words up to me, and then that's it. You know, just trying to be present, make sure I'm not thinking about too many other things. But yeah, it's a tough position to get into. It's easy when you're in the lead. It's easy when you're winning an event and doing really well. But I gotta say, when you're not doing that great in a competition and you've just messed up a couple dives, it's definitely a lot harder to get back into that really nice mentality.
I mean, I guess that is one of the things with, that's similar-ish to diving, isn't it? Keeping your head in the game through the entire event. You drop your second dive, you've got to make sure you keep going for your third dive, try and put it behind you. But it's really, really hard. But obviously, for you guys, it's so much more extreme. And I mean, there's loads of things I'd love to like get into and try and break down, because it's so interesting. Even for me as like a bit of a high diver, it's still like it's so kind of fascinating. Wannabe, but never had the full bottle to properly try it. No. But I suppose you were talking about like your 3.5 twisting quad right front, but then that was the dive that won you the World Championships in Doha last year, right? And you needed. You go into that last round, and you just said like it's easier when you're in the lead, but I don't think you were in the lead going into that final round.
No, I wasn't.
And you've got the hardest dive in the world with the biggest DD in the world, obviously. So you've got the potential to do it, but then like, so what was that like in that moment?
Yeah, so I think I was either 4th or 3rd going into that last dive. Because at the time I was doing a dive which, in my opinion, was harder than the front twist, but in the degree of difficulty, it was lower. It was a reverse triple quad, and that was a crazy hard dive for me. And that's ridiculous. Actually, I almost. Oh my gosh. True. Yeah, that was a really wild dive. But before that competition, we had actually been doing that dive last in the list, and I don't remember why. But in Doha was the first time that we switched it back so that we were finishing with the front twist, and I messed up the reverse twist. I did it for I think like 6.5s, which when you're at World Championships trying to fight for the gold medal, it's not ideal. So I had a lot of pressure on the front twist, but I've been doing the dive now since 2019. So I enjoy it last. I feel like that's a dive that I know I can get 9s plus on. So having it last, it just fills me with a bit of confidence. And I think I was pretty close with Costa, James, and Gary there. So yeah, I had a lot of confidence going into that last dive. I actually don't remember it too well, to be honest, but I do remember having a lot of confidence going into that last dive, especially with the other divers having. I want to say they had their smaller dives in that last round as well, so I had a DD advantage there as well.
Yeah, but I mean, what about but you say you have confidence, but like, what about fear? I know it's a bit kind of cliche, like, high diving scary, but I mean, it is, and it's so challenging. Like okay, first of all, in competition, I know for me, like in a regular diving event or in a show, for example, I'm not really scared in the moment because you're so focused on what you have to do. But, training and all that stuff, there's huge fear there. But obviously we're talking about, 27 meter and the hardest dives in the world. So in competition, is the fear there as well, or?
Yes, I think it is. Like in training, I think fear is a bigger part of it. I think when you're in competition, you probably I would say I have the same amount of fear, but I think it's dulled down by like competition anxiety, nerves, things like that. So I won't say I'm like less scared, but you've got more things to deal with. So it doesn't feel like it's as big of a priority. But that front twist that I do, the big front twist dive, it's that one's not really scary to me anymore. I'm just like, I train it so much. Honestly, it's like muscle memory now.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's probably my most consistent dive, even more than my required and intermediate rounds. So yeah, there's not much fear on that one. The reverse twist, on the other hand, that I was doing, there was a lot of fear on that one. I mean, you're doing 3.5 twists reverse, and then your toes are coming just past the platform like that. I mean, I clipped my toes once on the 12 meter lead up that we were doing, and that shook me, because then every takeoff I was sending it all the way out, and then it was just bad, and we had to build it all back up. So that didn't help. But yeah, luckily I only did that dive for less than a year, maybe six events or something. But yeah, that was.
And I mean, but also like, but then you've done, okay, just to as well. I kind of maybe want to ask about what the plan is, but you're the only one to have done that 3.5 twisting front quad, right? You're the only one to have done the reverse twist that we were talking about. And you've done back quad. Am I right?
I have done back quad. That's a 6.6 DD.
That's insane.
And so, I mean, first of all, are there other dives that you're the only one who's ever done? And then, well, okay, I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, but the back quads, I did it in one competition. It was the World Cup in 2023, I want to say, in Fort Lauderdale. I got the 6.5s, but it's just like, it's a really, really hard dive. So I avoided that one again. Anki Piper came up to me, one of our head judges, and was like, cool dive, but like, you're not going to score very high on it. I was like, I know, don't worry, I'm going to change it. But yeah, I think those three. And then I used to do, my very first event, I did a reverse flip half twist. So it was like a half twist at the start, and then a blind entry.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if no one's not done it, but I know it's not been done in Red Bull or like professional high diving. Maybe in some shows or things like that, people have done it. But yeah, that was an interesting one as well.
So then the second part of that is what's the feeling of doing a dive that no one else has ever done?
Honestly, like the reverse triple quad was easier because I've seen Nikita for 2 years doing reverse triple, so with one less twist, and I've watched him do the lead ups day after day when he was living here in Montreal. And I was like, well, if I can do the same lead ups with one more twist and be at kind of the same speed and rotation that he was, then it equals out that I could do the dive. With the quad, that was a totally different thing, because I know that Costa does the dive with one less twist, but I never see Costa train. You know, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know the feeling of how it should be. So that I was in kind of a weird headspace the whole time. I was really, really like committed to getting this dive done, but I was like diving into the unknown quite literally. And you just don't know. And when like if you fail the dive, you're gonna get knocked out. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of the minimum for that dive. So
Yeah.
when that's the
consequence.
failure point, yeah, exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. When that's the consequence is failing a dive and getting knocked out. It's really hard. But as I said, I was in this kind of weird headspace the whole week, just really committed to the dive, and I like didn't really care, to be honest, about what would have happened. I mean, we were in Fort Lauderdale. It's one of those places where if you get knocked out, they're gonna get you quick. They're gonna get you to the hospital quick.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? If there's one place to try this dive, it's now. And we did it. I landed really, really short. I had a sore neck for a couple of days. I had to eat soup for breakfast, lunch, and dinner the next day. But yeah, but it was just honestly, it's probably the weirdest experience, weirdest feeling that I've had in cliff diving. I can't. It's really hard to explain. Just kind of it's like a bit of a gray area in my head.
Explain the value of doing something like that. Like, you know, you've put yourself in a situation where you are taking the risk of getting knocked out and just trying it. But for what? What's the purpose? Is it just to be able to tick that box, say I've done this dive, I completed it? Is it to do it well? Is it to compete it well? Is it to give yourselves a chance of winning gold medals? Like, where's the value for you? Is it in the performance, the outcomes? What is it?
That's kind of the weird thing, because I pushed myself so hard to do this dive, and even before the dive, I kind of knew there wasn't going to be that much value in it. And from an outside perspective, it just seems really, really stupid to put yourself in so much danger when you already know that it's not really useful, to be honest. I knew the dive was going to be crazy hard. I knew that it was going to score less than another dive that I could do. I think for me, it was to just tick that box. And sometimes it is that mentality of just like, I want to do it. Like nothing else. I get a bit tunnel vision sometimes, and it's like nothing else matters until I've done this. And then once I've done it, I've competed it once, I'm like, you know what? I've proved that I can do it. I don't need to do it. So let's sack it off. Let's just move on to the next. But yeah, it's probably not a good way to look at dives like that. But it's how I work, how I operate, you know.
And you got it done, so
yeah, and we're talking about it now, you know. Well,
still here to tell the tale, yeah.
It's funny because it reminded a little bit of me of you've mentioned Costa a couple of times, Konstantin Popovic, the Romanian, and you know, obviously another phenomenal diver. But he was telling me, I think it was when we were in the Philippines, and he was trying to convince me to come back into. Like, you're a good diver. Like you should. It's not that hard, man. It's not that hard. Yeah, you take a crash, people grab you. You're okay. It's okay. That's the, you know, it happens to everyone, but you're okay. And I mean, it was very much in his style. But in a way, it's kind of similar to what you just said in a way, though. Of like, yeah, but you know, you're in the pool and like the scuba diver, you're unconscious, but they collect you and take you to hospital. So it's fine.
I gotta say, I'm lucky enough to not have to do that yet. I see it a lot of times, and it's weird how kind of normal it is to me now, watching people get knocked out and saved by scuba divers. But yeah, I like divers go into this like they know the risks. Everyone knows what could happen. And I think some people are maybe a little bit more, say, delusional than others that they're not going to get injured. I mean, I'm not going to say any names, of course, but if you're in the diving world, you kind of know who's got a bit of delusion and who doesn't. But I know all the risks that I take when going into this, and I know that I'm definitely not the riskiest diver. But it can happen to anyone.
He says doing the hardest dives in the world that no one else has ever done before.
Yeah.
He says he's not the riskiest diver. I'm starting to think like you're one of the delusional people that you're talking about.
Maybe I am. Maybe I am. That's your decision, but maybe I am. I suppose that's the how delusion works, really, isn't it? You're not aware of it. No, but that is the. In injury, I suppose, though, that's actually something I wanted to mention, because in some ways you could argue that like high diving gets a bad a bad rep? I'm not sure, but obviously the injury side of things, the fear factor, the danger is really focused on. But then, obviously you just said, Aidan, that the divers know the risks. And then I think I heard Dave Coultori, the American cliff diver, say this, that, if you look at other sports like football, rugby, boxing, I mean, the most popular sport in the world, football, I mean, the amount of ACLs that get snapped and torn and stuff happen, and the concussions, and they shouldn't head the ball now because, the concussion risk and all this stuff. But because the essence of it isn't as like death defying, it somehow doesn't have that same spotlight. But do you kind of agree with that, Aidan? Do you feel like it gets a bad rep unnecessarily, or?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think when you're looking at sports in general, you've got for now, let's say regular. I know they're not regular sports, and then extreme sports. And everyone sees extreme sports. They hear the word extreme, and they're like, "Well, that's where people get injuries, where people die." But like in reality, it's not. It's a sport with bigger risk, but like you've got more work to get to that point of actually even doing the sport.
Yeah.
Anyone can play football, but not everyone can cliff dive. And I mean, it's probably a bad example, but football doesn't get a bad rep because it's not seen as an extreme sport. Injuries do happen way more often than in cliff diving, but it's just seen as one of those normal, more safe sports by kind of society, I guess. But yeah, cliff diving, I think one of the things that gives it a bad rep is people, non-professionals, people who just go to a cliff and jump off, think they can do what we do, but they don't really realize what goes behind the scenes for us. And I think social media is a huge thing for us right now, showing people what does go on behind the scenes and what we do to make this sport safe. So I think that's a big help. But I mean, both of you guys from the UK, tombstoning was a massive thing in the UK about 10 years ago. That gave a really, really bad rep to cliff diving, because everyone I would talk to, they're like, "Oh, you're just tombstoning." It's like, not quite. But yeah, it doesn't get the best rep. I mean, there's DODs nowadays as well, which I do enjoy to watch. I will admit it's fun to watch, but some of these guys, they're doing crazy high things and breaking skulls and sternums and ribs, and it's like, well, that's what's given us the bad rep, I think, right now. Which no, like, I'm not gonna tell them to stop or anything. I like watching people push the limits, but it's I think it's given a bad rep to a lot of other sports in that kind of category, unfortunately.
It's a great point that you bring up about the social media and the showing behind the scenes of what actually goes into it to make it a safe sport. And, obviously you're a Red Bull athlete, and Red Bull athletes, you could probably say are like the most excellent athletes at the highest level, because of the stunts that they're doing, the extreme things that they're trying. And I think a lot of people don't understand and don't appreciate how much actually goes into it and what it actually takes to prepare for it. So, when you're doing a stunt for Red Bull, you've got to do something specifically for them. What's that like? Like, what's the level of excellence that you're aiming for? Are you aiming for like a long period of preparation before even trying it, or is it multiple reps of trying to get the perfect shot? What does that look like for you?
It really depends on what the goal of the project is, what the outcome we want is. So a lot of these projects, especially ones that we do as cliff divers, are more just social based. So we want 3 or 4 clips that is going to blow up on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. And they don't take a massive amount of prep. Usually we go to the location a few months before, maybe the year before or something, just to check it out. We need permissions, and there's a lot of red tape that you have to cross for things like this. And that's for us is kind of where we kind of stop as cliff divers. there are bigger projects that they make into like little documentaries and things, but honestly, the shorter side of that is what gets most attention, is what brings most money to Red Bull. You know, it's the best kind of revenue stream. Instead of doing an hour-long documentary, we'll give them a 30-second clip that has the same impact, but with like a tenth of the production value, you know, and people can see it scrolling. You know, you're going to get more people see it scrolling on TikTok for 30 seconds than sitting down and dedicating an hour to this thing. That's for us. However, there are insane athletes which do incredible projects. One that comes to mind is my good friend Dario Costa. He's one of the stunt plane drivers. He's the guy that flew through the tunnel. Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah, I have seen that one. Yeah, unreal.
We actually did a dive off the platform in Polignano next to him as he was like pulling up. We dove off like right next to him. It's cool. He's a super nice guy, but those kind of projects that he has, they're the ones where they make the hour-long program, because they do have just like tons and tons of prep work and training that goes into that kind of stuff. But different to our kind of thing.
But you've been able to, I think all of you in the cliff diving world, I mean, obviously, you know, we've kind of mentioned like your partner Molly a few times, but I think she's obviously the shining example. But I think in general, pretty much everyone in the cliff diving world is really like has done a really good job of promoting the sport, I think, and I think that's you know brought a lot of attention, but also opportunities for people in general, and I think that's something really cool to see. And I just like this is on a personal level. You know, there are lots of crossovers between diving and cliff diving, but how you guys have been able to sort of make it almost even more community based, almost take yourselves, even though the stakes are higher, like it seems like you kind of take yourselves less seriously in a lot of ways. And so I just that's what I feel like from you guys. So I just kind of admire that, and I just think, you know, that's something you just maybe want to talk on a little bit.
Yeah, so personally, like I can't say I'm a huge fan of producing social media stuff. I like to put out content that I really enjoy, and at the minute it's just like it's hard to produce stuff that I enjoy. So I'm kind of taking a backseat with that. Molly calls me the collab king because all I do is do collabs on Instagram. So,
that's the dream. That is the dream.
Yeah,
right
the dream, mate. I love it.
Accept. Yes.
Yeah,
I posted
you have
today.
seen nothing.
but yeah, I think, I mean, as you said, Molly is the shining example of not taking herself too seriously and really showing what goes into cliff diving, the behind the scenes, the struggles that we have, as well as the celebrating all the good things that we do. And I know a lot of people who would be very good at that in traditional diving, but I don't think it has anything to do with the people. I think it has a little bit more to do with the sport. I think in general, diving is a little bit more kind of regulated, a little bit more robotic. Yes. Everyone's kind of, they stay in line very much. So even just to take your phone up to 10 meter, like in a training session when there's 30 other people on 10 meter, it's very, very different.
Frowned upon.
Producing content there, very much frowned on. Whereas in cliff diving, that's a huge part of it. Doing a 10-second video, like clip to the camera, and then doing a dive, that's completely accepted. If anything, that's the kind of base level of the whole thing. Whereas diving, it's just like it's not really accepted that much, which is a shame, to be honest, because there's a lot of people I know that could produce some really incredible content if they just had a phone out next to them. I mean, the best example really in diving is Sam Fricker.
Yes.
He's just like, I've talked to him before about this. He is a quantity over quality guy. Just like he's pushing out tons and tons of content. But yeah, he's a very good example. If we had more people like him in diving, I think the that kind of happy-go-lucky vibe that a lot of people have and the behind the scenes, I think a lot of people would be really interested in that. I mean, I got to say Tom does a pretty good pretty good example of it, especially with his 1.6 documentary that came out. But
Yeah.
a lot of people could be jumping on that train. They would do really well, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I know it was a long time ago and the world was different then, but I have almost some regrets, you could say, of not, like, I had some ideas and I just never acted on it. And I think, you mentioning Sam Fricker, and that argument of like quantity over quality, that's amazing, because you're not getting caught up in what everyone thinks of you. And, that's been a huge battle for me, actually. And I would say that's probably the number one reason why I didn't do more, is because I was like worried about what people think.
Yeah.
And so people like Sam and Molly and stuff, I think, really doing an amazing job of changing that. And then I guess that then the point I want to make maybe with the cliff diving is, it kind of seems like, I'm not saying it's completely new. Obviously there is a history with it, but as a sport, the World Series is quite new. It's come into World Aquatics relatively recently. And so it feels like you guys have been able to kind of carve out your own culture almost. Do you think that's true?
I think it's been more recent, to be honest, and I think there was a culture shift in cliff diving, to be honest. I think a lot of it 10 plus years ago was really just people that could do cliff diving, and they were very talented people. But I think they just came, enjoyed themselves. At that point, there wasn't that much prize money in cliff diving, so the motivation wasn't coming and winning everything. I think it was just going, doing your dives, having a good time with your mates, drinking a lot of beer, getting with
Surviving.
girls. It's very different now. It is becoming, as I said about traditional diving, a little bit more regulated, a little bit more kind of, everyone wants to win. Everyone's, I think it's becoming a little bit more kind of Olympic style, which is good for us, which is helpful, which hasn't been a massive push for cliff diving for a long time, but like that's kind of the direction that we're starting to go, which is really quite a good thing for your sport. And as you said, it is nice that we've kind of be able to pave that path towards more Olympic style regulations and things. But yeah, it's nice. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the development of cliff diving, because I've not followed it too closely over the years, but I've known it for a long time, obviously being alongside it. And well, speaking about the content as well, very briefly, for us trying to compete with the content that you guys produce is much harder, because our diving is just much less spectacular than your diving. So when we're posting clips, it looks, I feel like the competition between the two is quite tough. But you're completely right. I think it would be great to see more people like really engage with the content, because it would be great to just push out the sport, and people love watching it. I think that'd be fantastic. And I hope that continues as cliff diving becomes more regulated, as you're speaking about. I hope it continues that it is the standard to just like, take your phone up and do a little video and whatever else. But you spoke about wanting to be able to do this sport for another 15 years and pain free now that you've done this surgery. You already came into the sport at a young age. You've achieved so much in such a short career so far. What's going to keep you going for that period at the highest level? Like, what's going to keep you wanting to achieve the highest things?
It's a good question, because I don't know. I hope it is just like, I always had this wonder as a kid, about cliff diving, and I really hope, I still do kind of. I hope I keep this kind of childlike wonder all the way through my career. And I mean, I'm really good friends with all these divers now, with Gary, with Dave, with Steve, who were kind of the people that I really looked up to when I was starting cliff diving. And now I get Dave. Dave comes around my house all the time, and we're really good friends, but I'm like still always looking up to him in this weird way. I still feel like the kid. I still feel like the underdog, even though I'm really not nowadays. But it's that childlike wonder when you see your heroes. Like, I was playing Catan with him the other day. It was pretty sick. But like sometimes I take a step back and I'm Catan. Like, damn, this is the guy. This is the guy that I always looked up to for years of my life, and I'm still feel that way now, which is nice. And I hope I can keep that for a while. And if I'm diving another 15 years, I have to admit they're gonna drop off. I mean, they're 10 years older than me, a lot of these guys plus. So when they start retiring, I don't know who I'm going to keep looking up to, but hopefully I can inspire instead of look up.
Yeah, well, the tables
I'm sure
will
I do
turn.
inspire a little bit now. But
Yeah, the tables will turn.
Yeah.
You go from looking up to people to being the person that is looked up to, and that will create a whole shift, I think, in the way that you approach it. But that's not even on your radar at the moment because you're still the one that's looking up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know I am like people's heroes. It feels weird to say it, but like
So
I
British.
feel like I need another 10 years to be like someone's hero, but you know, whatever.
No, that's amazing. I mean, that's cool as well because people often say like, don't meet your heroes, right? And you know, you watch this video of Gary, you know, from when you're 10 or something, and you're like, that's fake. But actually, you know, now you're really close to him. I mean, obviously, you know, Gary's he's just such a cool guy. He's so humble. He's an incredible athlete. Like, you can't say anything against the guy. But it's still amazing, I think, in your position that they inspired you. You looked up to them, and now you're in this position where there's still all this, you know, respect, and I just think that's super, super, super cool.
Yeah, I like the position I'm in. It's nice. Doing well, but I'm still a young gun that can look up to people. It's nice. Everyone's so nice in cliff diving. Like, it's hard to make enemies.
Yeah, well, definitely. And diving was similar, I think, for me. That's one thing I really always liked about diving in general, was the fact that it wasn't this like bitter rivalry. You might have rivalries, you know, and you could say in a way that maybe me and Yona were rivals, because we were like, you know, in almost all competitions we were in together, we were always very close. So you could say like we were rivals, but it was never bitter. It wasn't like, you know, you might watch some tennis players like, you know, scream at each other or something. And I mean, I'm not saying it's a criticism
old school F1 fighting, NASCAR. You know, it's not quite the same.
It's different at all. So I just really liked the fact that there was this just huge, you know, mutual respect and sort of camaraderie between everyone. And I think that's so obviously the case in cliff diving. I think that's mega. Yeah.
So I feel like a feud always does well for the exposure, you know.
Yeah.
A person to person feud. It's always a nice little thing to have there. Sometimes
we actually had a Netflix crew come in. Oh, yeah. And like there is drama in cliff diving. Like there's 40 plus people in cliff diving. There's going to be some drama somewhere, and they came in just trying to extract the drama out of everyone. But we don't really want to give like talk dirt on anyone. You know, we're not big enough like tennis that we can talk dirt on people and it'd be fine. You know, we need good exposure at the minute, not bad exposure.
and it doesn't reflect on the sport. You know, that's not what the sport's all about as standard.
Exactly.
Obviously, you've made a move across to Montreal in the last few years. What's living in Canada like? How's that, you know, changed you as a person and as a diver?
It's pretty nice. Yeah, it's like there was a lot of reasons that I moved here. I mean, initially Molly is a big one for me. And then Steph, the coach that lives here, in my opinion, the best cliff diving coach in the world. And then the facility that they have here at the Olympic Stadium. They have the 10-meter platforms, the usual stuff, and then a 15, an 18, and a 20 bolted into the roof. It's like you don't get much better than that. So a lot of reasons to move out here, and I love it. You know, my French is going well, still struggling a bit, but it's nice. I love it here. We just moved to a new island, like just off of Montreal, and it's great. It's full of old people. Everyone's so nice. But yeah, I moved here actually like almost 3 years ago now in November, and I had 5 months of like blistering winter, like -25, -30, and it was awful. I wanted to kill myself. It was horrible. But after that, I like got into it, and now the winters are getting a bit easier. It started soon. It's not far off it. I'm getting a bit scared.
I admire that you made that move though. But actually, the one thing I kind of want to, my sort of final question in this section really is about stepping away from, you moved to Canada, but also you step away from diving, right? And you're now like fully in the cliff diving world. And obviously that's worked out for you, but I think that must have been a hard decision because you are a very good diver. You had potential. You did the Commonwealth Games. Like you're doing event. I know I know Sally as your coach. She was invested in you as a diver. She wanted to see you reach your full potential as a diver. So, it must have been hard in some ways to just go fully into cliff diving. Would you say, or?
Honestly, not really. Like, I think from a young age, we all kind of knew that cliff diving was where I was going to end up. No matter how well I did in regular diving, whether I made it to an Olympics, made it to a World Champs, did well in either of those, whatever it was, we all knew I was going to end up in cliff diving anyway. It was really just a matter of time. And I can't say that I think I reached my full potential. I could have done some bigger dives, but I don't think, to be honest, I ever would have been on par with some of the divers that we have nowadays. I mean, watching World Champs and watching like Rakuto and Cass and all of those divers there, it's hard to see myself being quite on the level of those guys. Mm-hmm. So I think when it got to my second Commonwealths in Birmingham, it really just kind of, I never had like a retirement of diving or anything like that. It really just kind of, I said, it's probably going to be my last event. It was, and it just kind of fizzled out, which I'm not mad about. I might go back to it one day like Gary did, If in the future GB or maybe Canada, if they ever need any divers, like Gary went to France, I'll put me in, coach. You never know. I reckon I could throw a pike list on 3 meter maybe. It'd give me a couple of months.
100% easy. I'm sure you could do it. Well, maybe not with your back, but otherwise you could do it in a second. Aidan, is there for our listeners and stuff, like where do you want people to continue following your journey and so on?
I said I'm not a big social media guy, but I do Instagram as Aidan _Heslop. I think it's the same on TikTok. Check it out if you want. There's a lot of nice collabs on there.
Amazing. I love it. And finally, Aidan, is there like a final message you wanna give on this the people on this main section before we close it off?
Yes. One of the things that I've learned over this injury is really to like it's not giving up. It's the thing that I always thought was really, really corny when people said it. I didn't like it, but this is kind of when you need that grit and determination when you're feeling at your lowest and you're injured, and you feel like you have no way out of it. Just don't give up. There's ups and downs in life. It's like a roller coaster. You're in a down. It's going back up at some point. Just stick to it. Honestly, keep motivated, keep determined. You'll come out the other side better than you ever went in it. So
you're completely right.
Amazing.
And that's very inspiring. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people and you've just become a lot of people's hero in this example.
There you go. Yeah.
No, but really, that is I think that's a great final message. And you're so young and you've achieved so much, and and delivering that wisdom, like, that's awesome, man. So so thank you so much. That is where we will wrap this main episode. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. If you're listening on Patreon, don't go anywhere, because Aidan's going to stick around a little longer for one more dive. If you're not there yet, come and join us for some extra stories. The links in the show notes, and we'll catch you on the next one.